Hello everyone. In the present video, I am going to discuss about Derrida's deconstruction. Derrida's concept of deconstruction and theory was the beginning of post-structuralist thought in sociology. Post-structuralism opposed structuralism. Structuralism, mainly linguistic structuralism, developed by Ferdinand de Saussure, had a linguistic turn. So this linguistic structuralism mainly took a linguistic turn. And what is this linguistic turn in the structuralism? It means that structure of the language constrain people. Structure of the language determines the behavior of the people. That is, human behavior or human interactions and relationship, or the people's living in the society are mainly determined by the structure of language. And then it had, of course, the anthropological term that we are not going to discuss. So Derrida's main opposition was against the linguistic turn of structuralism. According to Derrida, language cannot constrain people because he reduced language into writing. According to Derrida, actually there is nothing called language, it's just writing. And he also related this writing with social institutions, that I am coming in the next point. So he reduced, that is, Derrida reduced language into writing, and for him writing cannot constrain people, that is, writing cannot determine people, writing cannot regulate the relations and interactions among the people. Why? Because different words give different meaning in different context. Different context gives words a different meaning. So there is no such common laws of language. So it is not possible for any scientist to reveal any underlying common laws of language. So that is why it is not possible for language or writing to constrain people. Here we can take the example of natural science laws like law of gravitation. This law, which regulates the order and stability of the earth, and human beings living in this earth is possible because of the gravitation, and that means a common law is regulating and maintaining and determining the living of human beings in this earth. Similarly, structuralist or structuralism wanted to reveal a particular underlying laws of the society, that is social law, and that they wanted to establish as a common law for the human living in the society. But post-structuralist thought of Derrida basically deconstructed this idea of constraining people by the common social law. He found that there is no such common social law in the society, and it cannot be established. So he then connected or related this thought of writing with the institutions. For him, social institutions are nothing but writing. Social institutions also cannot constrain people because no social institution is universal. Of course, social institutions exist in every society, but there is no such common elements, common nature of practice, common attributes or characteristics found in any society. So different social institutions have different practices, different implications, different functionings in different society. And one particular practice of one social institutions have different meanings in different societies, and can also express different meaning in different context. So social institutions also cannot constrain people. For example, if we take the example of marriage. So marriage is one institution which mainly determines the family life of the society. And in India, marriage institution is essential for establishing a family. That one, if wants to establish family, one has to live in the family, and to establish family he has to get married. So marriage institution is inevitable for establishing a family. So one has to be regulated by the institution marriage and family. But many other societies where family can be established even without marriage. Marriage is not as important as it is there in India. So that means the same institution, marriage, which has a different impact, different implications, different functionings in different societies. So we can say that Derrida's idea of deconstruction of language and social institution is very relevant, because these language or writing and social institutions cannot constrain people or determine people, because these have different meanings, functions in different contexts. Now come to the second issue of Derrida's deconstruction. There is logocentrism. What is this logocentrism? Logocentrism means finding a universal truth or narrative and establishing it as true, right, beautiful, or so on. So logocentrism is basically revealing or exploring or establishing a particular universal truth, universal right narrative, a narrative which is considered as right, true, which is valid, acceptable. So Derrida basically opposed this logocentrism, and he said it is to be deconstructed. So we found that there is a deconstruction of logocentrism in Derrida's idea. What is this deconstruction of logocentrism? Deconstruction of logocentrism means that there should not be any common or universal narrative of right, wrong, beautiful. According to Derrida, we cannot say something is right absolutely, something is false absolutely. There cannot be absolute true or right, and it is something subjective, that what is beautiful and what is not. So we cannot have a universal narrative, a notion of right, wrong, beautiful, and so on. So he deconstructed this idea of logocentrism, and according to him, this logocentrism is suppression and repression of writing. That means the writing which establishes something as right, correct, and universally acceptable. So it is a repression and suppression of writing. So writing is not free. Writing is controlled by certain mechanisms, certain systems, certain narratives. So he took the example of theater of cruelty. He here basically compared theater with the society. In theater, various actors plays their character, and while playing the characters, they follows the script and directors. Director direct based on the script, and then actors play their characters accordingly. Actors have no such expression or self-expression. They cannot express their own characteristic. They cannot express their own creativity. They cannot express their own ideas into the character. Rather, it is regulated and dictated by directors, and director is mainly follows the script. And further, if we try to relate in the present context, then we will find that every theater or films which are based on certain narratives. So to present a particular narrative, director follows a particular kind of script and follows a particular kind of presentation in the screen. So Derrida related this theater of cruelty with the society. Similarly, in the society, people are following a particular universal narrative of true, false, beautiful, right, wrong, and there are some kind of universal acceptability of these things. So people in the society tends to follow these things. Here we can take the example of the domination of Western thought, domination of Western narratives, Western ideas, which are considered as most acceptable, most dominant, most modern, rational, scientific. So all the other countries of the world, particularly developing countries, some societies follows it. So this is what is the dictation and regulation of the society by a common narrative of right, wrong, true, false, beautiful, and so on. So he opposed this particular logocentrism in the society, that is called deconstruction of logocentrism. There cannot be any universal truth, there cannot be any universal right, wrong, there cannot be any universal beautiful, ugly. So it is subjective. But another issue here arises. If not this universal narrative of right, wrong, true, false, and dictation from the certain authorities, then what else? Then what is the alternative? Derrida has not given any alternative. No clear-cut alternative he has not given. He of course opposed this logocentrism, but of course there cannot be anarchy also. There are some mechanism which should regulate and others follow. Otherwise there would be anarchy. If everyone do their own things and actions according to their own way, and if there is no such regulations, so there would be anarchy. Of course Derrida also didn't want to have this kind of anarchy, but he also had no such alternative. So point here is that Derrida deconstructed the domination of intellectual authority. He basically criticized, opposed the intellectual authority, that so-called intellectual authority that establishes narratives, that establishes certain thoughts, laws of the society, true false values of the society, beautiful ugly narratives, notions of the society. So intellectual thought which is authoritative, and this authoritative intellectual thought constrain people, suppress people, repress the writings. So this is his idea of the deconstruction of logocentrism, that there must not be any authoritative intellectual narratives or ideas and ideology. It should be deconstructed. Now come to the last point of Derrida's deconstruction, decentering. He wanted to deconstruct the center. Centering means center of a particular thought, center of a idea, center of a development, center of a rationality. When we say development, empowerment, ideas, rationality, ideology, automatically our mind goes to a particular center, and we sometimes call it as mainstream society. For example, Western thoughts are considered as the dominant thought or center of any kind of development, center of any kind of science, scientific innovations, development, center of the democracy, democratic ideas. So this center which actually regulates and controls and represses the entire society, entire human beings. So there should be the deconstruction of this, deconstruction of the center. So decentering, his idea was to decenter. Then what is the alternative of decenter? For him, planned difference. Here again he took the example of theater. So there can be planned difference, that one can play his own character and there can be difference can bring changes. So center can just regulate in a particular way and according to the center's wish. But if there is a planned difference, then different society have different ideas and ideologies and the narratives about different issues, about different things. So he here basically deconstructed the idea, very notion, very idea of the center. We can take the example of this particular point even in recent time. There is a center of even sociological thought. There is a center of sociological ideas in India. There is center of scientific thought at global level. There is a center of the democratic ideas at global level. There is center of industrial ideas at global level. There is center of capitalistic ideas at global level. So every ideas, every thoughts, every practices, activities, developmental issues and narratives have their center. So once certain ideas comes from the center, then others accept it as universally valid, authentic. Be it scientific idea, be it rationality, be it ideology, be it political narrative, be it social issues, social ideas or theories, and even intellectual ideas. So when it comes from the center, it becomes acceptable for others, and others just try to follow it, try to imitate it, adapt it, just to get acceptable at global level. So following center has become a trend to get acceptability at the global level. So Derrida here deconstructed this idea of centering. So he put forward the idea of decentering. So this is his brief idea of the deconstruction. And of course there are many issues which we needs to be discussed, and it will be continued in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.